Amphoreus sucks. You know it, I know it, hell, even Dawi knows it. But for some reason, the only people who don't know it are the players themselves. See, let's be real, Honkai Star Rail has kinda been on a downward spiral for months now. But we got people acting like we in Bossing Say and denying it. The map is mid, the characters are mid, the story? Oh boy. I mean, don't get me wrong, I think conceptually it works really well. But on execution, it's one of the worst things to ever come out of Honkai Star Rail. And I'm just talking about this from a story perspective, because the gameplay aspect of Honkai does not help Amphoreus' case at all. To list a few, we have had power-crept characters, massive HP inflation over the past few months, bosses catered to only specific characters, and the worst of them all, global passives. Before we get into this video, why not like, comment, and subscribe to catch more slop like this.
Let's up those numbers!
With the obligatory plugging out of the way, let's move on to the reason why you're here. Bet you thought we're starting at 3.0, didn't you? Nah. See, the signs started showing once Rappa came out, and that was for two things that were presented during this patch. One of the biggest nothing burgers to ever exist, and these motherfuckers. I'd also like to add that this burger was 6 hours long. That's basically 14 anime episodes worth of story. I get fillers sometimes need to exist, but brother, this is just too much. Also, how are you going to release a character and never give her a rerun and never return her in the story or events, because Boot Hill was released just 3 versions before her and returned in the story twice before Rappa's release. Rappa, on the other hand, is competing with my dad to see who can get the milk first. But stepping away from the story for a moment, I did mention that there was a boss released, and basically this boss is just meant to make Rappa look good. Not saying she isn't good, but she just becomes extra good when it comes to this boss in specific. And that's for the fact that this boss's mechanic relies on 2 things. You bring in a character that specializes in AoE damage and breaking the enemy's toughness bar as fast as possible. I wonder who could possibly fit that description. I certainly have no idea who it could be. Anyway, I wish I could say more from this patch, but like, this patch was just dog shit and a waste of a filler patch. So let's just move on to the meat and potatoes of this video. The release of Amphoreus. If I could sum up what this region represents, it's basically that meme of Walter yelling from the car trying to warn Hank. 3.0 introduced us to a lot of things, which serving zero purpose. More specifically, the release of Remembrance characters. On paper, these sound really cool, having a pet next to you do the heavy lifting, but like, why? If you remove the mask from this new path, it's basically the exact same thing as every other path. Aglaya, Jingyuan, RMC, Sunday. Like, this isn't a new path, this is just power creep with a new name, but I'll get back to this topic later. For now, let's talk about the biggest offender from this patch, the story. I mentioned how 2.6 was basically a big ol' nothing burger. Well, prepare to be amazed by the same thing again, but with 5% more sauce this time. Like, if you hooked me up to a lie detector and asked me to list 5 things I liked about this patch, that thing's going to explode with how much I'm going to lie. And it's not like I'm making this up. Hoyoverse even acknowledged this and tried to fix it. Keyword being fixing it, because realistically it fixed nothing. Now stop me if you've heard this before, but this patch had also released a boss with a gimmick pretty much catered around the release of a new character. Yay! More predatory behavior! Surely this will be the end of it, right?
No.
Anyway, there really wasn't much more to talk about this patch besides the usual shit Honkai is known for, so let's move on to 3.1, where maybe something really good will be added. Yeah, so nothing new was added in this patch. Well, that's not entirely true. The lengths of these story quests were adjusted to be much longer than before, which wouldn't be a problem if these stories did get an improvement, but ultimately, no, it didn't. And no, killing someone does not make a story good. So let's just move on to my favorite patch, 3.2. The second anniversary of Honkai Star Rail. A time of celebration, and well, there was barely any of that. See, there was a little tiny problem arising amongst the community, and that was Amphoreus. Man, if you didn't believe in power creep before, this is definitely the character to change your mind. This character was everything wrapped up into one package. AoE damage dealer? Amphoreus. Single target? Don't worry, Amphoreus clears that easily. Need a sustain? Just use Amphoreus. Like, she power creeped dropped 4 paths in one patch, and not only paths, she power creeps accounts with their global passive. I know this has been talked about too much to the point friendships are broken up over this, so I think I'll just keep this short. I don't like it. Thank you. I felt long and hard over that, but what if I told you that wasn't the biggest offender of this patch? No, because on top of casters, we got a whole spending event. And if you spend up to a teeny tiny amount of $200, you get a moving wallpaper for your in-game phone. Yay! If it isn't obvious by now what's happening, basically Hoyoverse is just casually becoming more and more greedy, while also giving littler and littler. But let's be honest, not the first time this has happened. Oh, and guess what we also got this patch? That's right, another boss with a gimmick catered to one character. Yeah! I haven't even begun talking about the story for this patch. I'm not gonna lie, it is a step up from the last few patches. Each patch usually focuses on the character currently on the banner, but like usually in a shit way. But for some reason, it's like they got off their asses and decided to actually work. Because for some reason, more effort was put into this story than the last 2 patches. I'm not saying it was a cinematic masterpiece. No, it's far from that. But it does a really good job at making you like casters and understand their character. But I will say, I'm not really a fan of how they're slowly turning her into waifu bait. Anyway, the story wasn't good enough to save Amphoreus, but who knows? Maybe the next patch will. 3.3 does not save Amphoreus at all. 3.3 is probably, in my opinion, the only patch where you actually kinda need to pay attention to the story. Because for the first time, we learn real lore about Amphoreus and how the characters play an important role in it. However, even though the story conceptually is getting interesting, the execution of this is executed really badly. So don't start thinking I'm gonna start praising this game just yet. It's been a shit show so far, and it's going to continue to be. Unfortunately, I don't have anything else to say about this patch because even though the story is somewhat interesting, it still felt like a filler patch. And no, killing people does not make it interesting. So here we are at the current version. I have a lot to say about this patch, not just because of its story and presentation, but also because the long-awaited Fate collab and the long-awaited buffs to old characters are finally being released upon us peasants. I'll touch upon those later, but for now, let's talk about the usual things. Does this game fix known issues? Yes, but mostly no. We did get a skip button finally being introduced to us into the game that really saves time playing the story, but besides that, the story is still executed poorly. However, it is definitely better than it was 4 patches ago. It also decides to drop the entire lore of Amphoreus in one sitting, which is a bit weird in terms of pacing, but like, I don't know, I don't make games, I don't fucking know. But anyway, besides that, there's also a collaboration and buffs to fan favorite characters. Now, I'm going to be honest, the buffs barely make a difference for Blade and Jingliu. However, Kafka and Silverwolf definitely benefited from this, so good job, Hoyo. That's the only time you're ever gonna hear that from me. But besides that, the Fate collab, the thing players were insisting would save Honkai Star Rail, a collab announced almost a year ago, a collab uniting both Fate fans and Honkai Star Rail fans, a collab everyone was excited about, a collab that is so shit. Wait, what? Yeah, this collab is really shit, man. I mean, we get a free archer, which is pretty nice. He's pretty fun to play if you have Sparkle. You can also get his light cone for free if you have spent a mere 200 pulls within the next 42 days. Surely, with this in mind, Honkai will be giving us 200 pulls this patch. Oh. Once again, Honkai Star Rail has gone full Predator mode this patch. I forgot to mention this as well, but regarding Finon and Archer, both of them require 5-star supports to perform optimally. I don't know what Hoyoverse was smoking that day, but running all of their besting slot supports in the same time frame while only giving enough pulls to guarantee 1 5-star is not the way. But besides that, how was the story? Well, I think the best way to describe it is if the banana story came back on steroids. The original Fate writer was supposed to be on this, and I think it's pretty clear which parts of the story is done by him and which parts aren't done by him. And trust me, a lot of the story was not done by him. I do find it comforting for once that the whole fandom has come together to say this story was shit. It does restore some faith in this community for me, but like, let's be real, it's probably going to disappear by next patch. So, that's pretty much my thoughts on Amphoreus. A pretty big letdown from what was given to us back when Honkai Star Rail was first released. I guess the saying money changes people is real because man, it's weird how both billion-dollar games have become extremely lazy once they reach a certain status. Hopefully, ZZZ doesn't follow in their footsteps, but I don't have a lot of hope for that since this is Hoyoverse after all. Anyway, I did tell you I was going to release a Honkai Star Rail video, and I did deliver that, so now time to move on to my next addiction of mine, Persona 5 The Phantom X, a game I have been looking forward to for a long time. And well, I haven't really completed everything 1.0 has to offer, so I think the best thing for me to do is to just stream my journey playing the game. Yes, I am finally going to start streaming, and for now, exclusively on Kick, because my PC cannot handle multi-streaming yet. So if you do want to catch what videos I plan to make videos on, why not follow my Kick down below? And if you did like this video, why not like, comment, and subscribe to catch more things I upload. That's all for me today. I'll see you next time. Peace.